Okay, here we are for another Trainer Tip Tuesday, and I think this is going to tie really well into our 100-day challenge for our members. And even if you're not a member of the gym or not doing the challenge, I think this is still pretty relevant to anyone's kind of goals based on whether it's performance, sleep and recovery, nutrition, or kind of I think the three top ones that people kind of start to get into when they're thinking about goals for a better lifestyle, a better work week, and a healthier life. And so I think what happens is folks know all the things they need to work on. We all kind of know that laundry list that's sitting in the back of our head of all the things that we are really bad at, and also know the things that we're good at and that we have to maybe not gravitate towards as much because we don't need to do those things as much. We need to bring the other ones that are a little bit weaker, a little bit higher. But not trying to do everything kind of all at once, and we'll talk about that. We've said that so many times in a lot of our newsletters or sessions or some of our other tips. Like, you kind of got to choose one thing, take it really far forward, and then come back for another thing and bring that thing up to that level, so on and so forth. So everything can kind of come up individually instead of just kind of staying mediocre all the time. So as far as goals go, maybe a couple of performance goals would be like, I want to lift a certain weight. Maybe that's a deadlift or something like that. Or maybe it's I want to have a faster 5K run. Different goals, but pretty similar, pretty common for 5K faster, pretty common for athletes. Or I want to climb something or ski something. Another one would be maybe sleep and recovery. Maybe you're looking for more like 8 hours of sleep a night. Or maybe you're looking to do more mobility in your sessions. Pretty common. Nutrition's obviously also super common and ties in really well with all this stuff. Maybe you're looking to drink more water each day. Maybe you're like me and you're just tapping into that coffee day and night. Or maybe you're looking at, I want to have an uptake or an increase in my protein. I'm not getting enough protein. And maybe that's also timing of that protein intake, like after a hard workout, not just kind of having it when you feel like it. And so that's a lot of things. Like, just right off the bat here, we've got like 2, 4, 6 different things we can work on in 3 different categories. Super overwhelming if we tried to do all of those all at once. Our goal and what we suggest is picking just one thing. Okay, like tying yourself to just one specific goal. And so maybe it's the 8 hours of sleep. Maybe everything's kind of feeling pretty good. You've hit some performance goals in the past. You're feeling pretty mobile. You feel like your diet's not, crazy bad. There's some room for improvement, but it's not really that bad. But maybe you're like really struggling with the sleep. Maybe you work a stressful job. Maybe you've got kids after school programs and things are kind of just crazy. It's hard to kind of wind down and you're looking at like the 5 to 6 hours of sleep at night. We know that 8 hours kind of like that benchmark time, and we know that 8 hours of also good sleep makes up a huge portion of that, not necessarily like 8 hours in bed where you like maybe were drunk from the night before and you're not sleeping very well. But what are you going to do to practice that, right? Like, you're not going to hit it out of the park every single day, but maybe it's 3, 4 times a week where you're like consciously like getting away from the screen, or maybe you bust the book out, or you like go make the habit of at least going into bed and trying to get to bed at a reasonable hour, knowing you need to be up for whatever task you have the next morning, instead of kind of just hoping and wishing that you were going to get 8 hours of sleep. Actually building real habits around actually getting 8 hours of sleep. Take this for a really, really long time. It feels clunky and awkward at first. You're not going to get it right for probably the first few months. But once you kind of start to develop a routine and get really good at something, then it kind of just becomes this like thing you do rather than this thing you're kind of working on. And we know that like the 8 hours of sleep is going to help you probably with your training. It's probably going to help you with your nutrition. It's going to help you feel a bit better in the gym. So I think people have a hard time letting go of some of these other goals they're also excited about. They think they're just gonna like go by the wayside, but the goal that they choose will probably help all the other things they want to work on later. And then once you take this thing all the way and you're like totally doing way better than you used to, then you can kind of just put a little check mark next to this thing. You know, it might be something you come back to every so often when you're like, ooh, I'm kind of back on the bad sleep pattern. Check that thing off, and then maybe it's working on your H2O intake, and you're taking that for another 3, 4, 5 months. Boom, you got a habit. I drink more water. I drink water before I have a cup of coffee in the morning, or I drink water before I have my glass of wine at dinner on the weekends, or whatever. That gets checked off, and then you can start hitting off all the, what I think are some of the more fun ones, the ones that like, you know, lifting heavier weights and running intervals on the track or whatever. But trying not to hit all these things all at once. Like if you're trying to sleep more and run faster and drink more water and eat protein, you've overwhelmed your system. You're like instant failure. There's too many things to keep track of, and it'll just be like instant frustration because you just be like, I suck. Oh my God, I can't do any of these things. Start really small with whatever first goal you have, and then you can start to get more complicated with it, feel good about it, and then move on. So think about this when you're like sitting down with the journal and thinking about your next goal and what you want to do next.